Welcome to Unsolved Energy with Travi, where the dead still speak and the truth doesn't stay buried. I'm your host, Travi, professional evidential psychic medium, intuitive investigator, and the voice for stories that refuse to be silenced. This is episode 6 of Unsolved Energy with Travi. Tonight's case is entitled, It Be Your Own Mans. Disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The impressions shared are based on intuitive and spiritual interpretation. Now let's get into it. What we know is this. Robert Cobain was featured in an episode of First 48. He was a father of 2, and the police discovered the crime scene because of the shattered patio glass, which led them to Robert's body being on the floor in his apartment, riddled with bullets. Robert Cobain was shot inside of his apartment on December 3rd, 2024, and as it stands, this case has still been classified as a cold case with the North Charleston, South Carolina Police Department. As always, what we don't know is what really happened behind the scenes, and that's where I come in. I tap into the energy surrounding this case, connecting beyond the physical, to uncover impressions, emotions, and possible truths that might still be lingering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys through what happened to me the day that I watched this episode. I was away out of town and I had turned on Force 48. I always watch the A&E channel. And I had turned on Force 48 and I had watched the case. I believe it's season 29, like episode 19 or something like that. I have to double check that. But I was watching the case and I said, it's amazing to me that usually in Force 48, they solve almost all of the cases. They always get somebody snitching. They always get somebody telling what's going on. In this particular case, they had no leads. And so Spirit said, hey, maybe you should take a look into that. But I dismissed it, right? As we always do. And I turned off the television. I went to go run some errands. And when I came back, I said, hey, let me have a seat. I'm going to turn on the television. I really get to sit still and watch TV. I'm going to turn on Force 48. And I just hit play. I didn't look at the screen. I was actually just in my phone. And then it began to play. And it was the exact same episode that featured Mr. Robert Cobain. At that moment, I said, you know what, Spirit, I hear you. That is my clue. That is my key to tap into this energy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you all on this journey of how I set with the energy. I do keep my mediumship, I don't know if you call them supplies, or I keep my questions that I ask Spirit. I always keep my journal or my notebook handy just in case, regardless. There's sometimes when I tap in on the plane. There's sometimes when I tap in driving in the back of the Uber or the Lyft. So I always keep my notebook handy. And it just so happened that once I saw this episode repeat itself, that to me was Spirit's way of saying it's time for you to get into it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Okay, so this is the mediumship session that I had with Robert Brown III, better known as Robert Cobain, an artist out of North Charleston, South Carolina, who was tragically murdered in his apartment at the age of 40. So the first question I asked him, first and foremost, was he willing to communicate, and if there was anything that he wanted me to know before we began. And he started with, I just want you to know that I was being naive and I was too trustworthy. Okay. So I asked him, I said, okay, understood. Do I have your permission to tap into your energy to move forward? And he replied, it's cool. I'm cool. It's cool. And so then I said, okay, well, can you kind of describe to me or show me what happened? I saw the episode of First 48, but can you describe to me or show me what happened? And he started with, all right, check it. So he said, the person was coming over to play the game. He said that he was in the back bedroom and then he came to the front because company was stopping by. Okay. He said this person is more like a brother or a cousin or a close but / distant friend. So it's almost like that distant cousin that you're like, okay, we're blood, but we're still gonna, acknowledge each other as family, but we don't really fuck with each other like that. Like, that's what it's giving. this person came to the services and also consoled the family. That's something else that you guys need to keep in mind. That was not featured on the show. So then I said, well, can you show me what this individual looks like? And I saw an African American male. He was stocky in build, about 6'1", 6'2". He had a wide nose, small eyes, and he had really high cheekbones. And what happened is that when he opened that front door, Rob tried to push the individual back out of the house. And I believe that's when the first shot went off. So this is him describing or showing me different images of how things transpired. Rob said that he fought back for his kids, and that at the time of his transition, I asked him who was with him at the time of his transition, and what I heard was that there was a grandmother energy that came to collect his soul. So for those of you that don't know, once we transition, our most cherished and loved ones come through, show up for us to kind of make the transition a little bit more easier for us, to make it a little bit more at ease. You see a familiar face, you see someone that you love dearly, and they're saying, hey, come on, come go with me. And that allows spirit to release from, as someone calls it, the body car, in order to move forward to the next part of their journey. Okay? Also, when asking him who was present, I also wrote down dad ? So I don't know if Rob's dad has also transitioned, but I heard that there was a grandmother energy as well as a father energy present. The next question I asked him is, were you afraid or were you aware that something was about to happen? And the response I heard was, I wasn't afraid, more aggravated than anything. I was in fight or flight mode. And every time I'm going to fight. But then he kind of jokingly said, like in a in a humorous way, he said, let's be real. I'm a lover, not a fighter. And we kind of laughed about it. And I said, I completely understand that. There were some people in the episode that had indicated that he was definitely a ladies' man and that they couldn't figure out who would want to do something to this person because he was so sweet. So then I asked him if he knew the person responsible for his transition. And he said, technically, but not personally. Like I didn't know he was crazy enough to do something like this. Oh, and then next to my notes, I have an asterisk that says, was he bi-curious? ? The next question I asked was this planned or was it accidental? And I heard that it was a plan. It was fueled by jealousy and envy. And that's, don't keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Don't ever forget that. So I asked him, where should investigators look for evidence or clarity? And what I heard was that there was an argument or a heated discussion or debate at the studio. And then this particular incident carried over from the studio. So I don't know if that makes sense to the family or the friends, but this is what I heard when asking him, what did they miss? What did the investigators miss? What are they missing that would allow or help to close this case? Okay. The next question I asked was, what was their motive or emotional state? He said the motive was ego. He said when you jones or clown on someone, they took it to heart. They were super sensitive about the way we were clowning and jonesing on them. And it was almost as if they wanted revenge or payback for being clowned at the studio. The next question I asked him is, was it somebody close to you or was it a stranger? And he was like, it was someone close to me, but I saw the envious energy, is what he said. I saw the envious energy, and that's what allowed me to kind of see who the person was for who they were. once they enter the home. Does that make sense? Okay. And so then I asked him, was the person still living? And he replied, yes, still living, possibly moved shortly after the services. So for the family, who is the stocky build, beady-eyed African-American male that moved shortly after the services? There might be someone that you may want to keep your eye on. Again, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so then the next question that I asked Spirit was, is there anyone who knows more than what they've told the police or what they've shared with the family? And what I heard was that they've always had a love-hate relationship. Him and this individual have always had a love-hate relationship, but he didn't realize, again, the circumstances or the consequences for jonesing on this person was actually that deep. This is something that they did frequently. This is something that they did as a family. This is something as they did as brothers. But this particular joke struck a different kind of nerve for this individual, which in turn had them retaliate in a sense. So then the next question I asked is, where should investigators focus their attention? And what I heard was phone records. There should be a way to double check the phones. There should be a way to double check locations. There should be a way to double check the pings of anyone who was at the studio or who was a part of a studio session, in addition to what phones pinged in that area that night. I'm not sure if that's too extensive for the North Charleston, South Carolina Police Department, but this is just what I heard, okay? So the next question I asked is there a specific location or object or a person that kind of holds a clue to everything that's going on? And what he said was that the individual involved in taking his life has since sold the weapon. So that is an indication to me that the weapon may not be found because it was sold to someone else. Now, the person that is in possession of this weapon has no idea what they have in their possession exactly. It was at a discounted rate. I'm listening. Hold on. It was at a discounted rate. Yeah, and it was kind of like I gotta get rid of it because I'm moving. In the words of my sister Neef, do you understand? I gotta get rid of it because I'm moving. Okay, so then I asked him what evidence was being overlooked, and what the the reply was is that the grieving quote unquote friend ain't always your quote unquote friend. So again, that goes back to indicating that this is someone that he was familiar with. This is someone that he knew, but this is someone that also was jealous of him, envious of him, and envious of his energy. Please understand that there will be individuals that are jealous of you from the way that you blink, to the way that you sneeze, to the way that you smile, to the way that you get attention from other people, to the way that other people love you. There are individuals out here that envy and want what you have. And some of them are crazy enough to believe that if I get rid of this person, I'll be able to inherit all of the love, all of the attention, all of the affection. And what they fail to realize is their mind and mental is so off that they fail to realize that it's actually you. It's you, it's your spirit, it's your energy that people are drawn to. And that just because your spirit or your energy is no longer present does not mean that they're next in line to receive all of the love, attention, and affection that the other individual had received. And that's what it feels like, a serious case of jealousy and envy. And if I get rid of him, then I can get that attention, I can get that affection. Unfortunately, that's how some people feel. So then the next question I asked him, is there someone who was holding key information? And what he said was that there's a guy plus a cousin that had been confided in and possibly given a confession of the crime. This individual took this crime and shared it with a guy friend plus a cousin. So again, double check who recently moved after the services. African American male, beady eyes, stocky build. Okay. And so then I asked him if he had a message that he wanted to deliver to his family or deliver to the world. Is there anything that you want to say? Just like when I close out any other reading, like, hey, is there something that you want to share, or is there a message? And what I heard was that I did not suffer, but it definitely felt like a setup. Okay. I did not suffer, meaning that once the bullets penetrated his body, by that time he was probably already gone. You know how they say sometimes people die in an instant? That's what it feels like he wasn't physically or spiritually there to feel the impact of that. Does that make sense? And then he said to my son, and then I heard the name Noah, "Thank you for allowing me to see life through your eyes. You brought a joy to my heart that is unexplainable." To my daughter, "I see you going to law school after this one. No worries. Each win will heal your heart." To my mother, my best friend, "I love you." And then I asked him, was there anything preventing him from fully crossing over? He said, "No, I'm cross. Someone in my family knows what to do, and they did it for me." I asked him then, did he want justice or resolution? What would bring peace to his soul? And what he said was that I'm already at peace. I'm good. I'm already at peace. I asked him, how can those involved honor his memory to bring his case to light? And what he said is that balloon releases are nice, but promise me that you all will do it together as a whole, as a family, as a community. And the last question that I asked is, do you forgive or want forgiveness from anyone? And what I heard was, I want forgiveness from my family. I want my family to forgive me for not thinking and being naive. And then in closing, I said, is there anything else that you miss or anything else that you want to share? He said, I miss my flaming hot Cheetos, but I send love to everybody. I'm blowing kisses. I'm sending love to everybody. And he just wanted to show gratitude for being able to come forward and speak his truth. So if you have not seen the episode of First 48 entitled, I believe it's entitled Unforgettable Rob, which is the story of Robert Cobain. And I believe he chose that last name Cobain because Kurt Cobain was one of his favorite artists. And so he incorporated that name into his stage name. But his name, let me look back, is actually Robert Brown III of North Charleston, South Carolina. And we urge that anyone who has any information to please come forward so that we can catch this individual that has moved away from North Charleston, Carolina, South Carolina after the services. Y'all forgive me for the whisper. I'm just saying that I just want to remind y'all that he knew this person. At least that's what he told me. But anywho, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Unsolved Energy with Travi, where the silence still speaks and the energy never dies. If this episode pulled you in, make sure you hit those notifications, subscribe on all podcast platforms, and leave a review so more people can find my show. And don't forget, subscribe to my TikTok so you can catch me live, where the energy unfolds in real time. And then head over to YouTube and join the replay gang for exclusive replays, clips, and extended content. If you have a cold case, missing person case, or a story you feel needs a deeper spiritual look, send your information to ConnectWithTravi@gmail.com. That's ConnectWithTravi@gmail.com. Until next time, protect your energy, trust your intuition, and remember, some cases may go cold, but energy never does. Thank you for tuning in to Unsolved Energy with Travi, and I'll catch you guys next week. Talk to you later, guys.